The second speaker, from Cox Architecture, Mr. Russell Lee. Today, we will hear about the design of different facilities from a viewpoint of an architect. The presentation will include many pictures. There are no materials being distributed. Please watch the screen. Mr. Lee, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today about the design aspects that were taken into consideration with a number of the venues we designed for Sydney Olympic Park that have resulted in their legacy. Today I'd like to showcase or give you examples of two of those venues, firstly being the Aquatic Centre and also being Allphones Arena. The Aquatic Centre was completed in 1994 in association with the State Athletic Centre. These facilities were both designed and construction commenced prior to Sydney being awarded the Olympic Games. Both designs were based on long-term needs of the state and the community, but allowed for the significant impacts that were going to be required for an Olympic-type Games. Allphones Arena was completed in 1998, 2 years prior to the Olympics. It was designed as a multi-purpose venue for sport and entertainment that could host indoor Olympic events. The Aquatic Centre and Allphones Arena are located at Sydney Olympic Park, which, as Susan has shown on the previous slide, is between Parramatta CBD and the main CBD of Sydney, 16 kilometres to the west of that CBD. It is now considered, in terms of Sydney, to be the geographic economic centre of Sydney. Cox were involved in a number of venues and hence a number of the sports associated with the Sydney Olympics. In particular, obviously, Allphones Arena, which was actually used for gymnastics and basketball. The Aquatic Centre, which was used for swimming, diving, water polo and synchronised swimming. The Sydney Olympic Park State Centre, which was used for table tennis and taekwondo. The Sydney Athletic Centre, which was the warm-up venue for the main Olympic Stadium and also used as a training venue for athletics. And the Sydney Showground Showring, or Stadium, which was used for Olympic baseball as well as modern pentathlon. So my first case study is the Allphones Arena, which was called, at that time, Sydney Superdome. It was completed in 1998 under a public-private partnership, of which the private sector put in $100 million and the state government put in $180 million, and the private sector then operated the facility post the Olympic Games. It included, within the $180 million budget, a 3,500 car park adjacent to it. It is ranked as one of the world's top 10 arenas. Allphones has a 40 by 70 metre event floor with 15,000 fixed seats and 3,000 retractable seats. It can also host another 3,000 seats on the flat floor to bring it up to a total of 21,000. It was built to meet basically the environmental initiatives that were established for the Sydney Olympic Games to make sure that Sydney was the greenest Olympic Games ever, and was also designed to be Australia's #1 indoor venue for sport and entertainment. The concept was to take a sports bowl and wrap a very Australian element around it, which a veranda form. The veranda accommodated all of the circulation and support facilities required for the arena and the spectators. The roof was then held up by a crown of columns, which were then tied back to the actual seating bowl itself. The 3 levels of seating included a club level with enhanced sight lines and also facilities. When we first started to design and actually after construction started, the Olympic Authority at the time, SOCOG, actually changed the program for sports at the venue. And this, I think, demonstrates how flexible the design of the venue actually was, in that we had initially designed the venue for handball and gymnastics, and it was changed to be gymnastics and basketball. So, such a venue being as flexible as it is, allowed very little interruption or intrusion as part of the overlay for the Olympic Games. And in fact, it was very easily converted from gymnastics in the first week of competition to basketball in the second week of competition without really any major loss of time. Post the Olympics, unfortunately, Sydney is not a great city for indoor sport in terms of its spectator requirements. But the venue has a very significant use in terms of providing entertainment for our city. And hence the primary uses are things such as concerts, as well as other entertainment events such as ice shows and so forth. It is also still used for sport, but that is much less than 10% of its probably events that are held there. Games such as basketball, netball, we have the World Netball Championships there this year, as well as tennis, of all generally hosted within the venue. It is also used for other events, and one of the most interesting and surprising event was in fact its use as a religious facility, meeting facility, and in fact that has actually set the record capacity for the venue at over 21,000 persons being present. It is also used for convention and other meeting facilities. My second case study is the Sydney Aquatic Centre. The Aquatic Centre was built or completed in 1994 along with the Athletic Centre, and it was built under a design and build contract situation, not dissimilar to what's being proposed currently for the Aquatic Centre for Tokyo. A feasibility study had been undertaken prior to the actual commencement of the main design and the award of the contract, of which a very important decision was made that in fact the centre should accommodate not just the elite performance facilities, but also to include community leisure facilities. Hence, the Aquatic Centre has 4 main water bodies: the diving pool, the 50-metre pool, the 50-metre warm-up pool, which also has a flexible floor to allow for a wide range of activities and program, and also the leisure pool. The leisure pool is probably one of the most important aspects of the facility in terms of revenue generation. And in fact, the comment has been regularly made that if any part of the facility should be increased or improved, it is generally the leisure component that should have been even larger. And hence, one of the things we built into the design was in fact the opportunity for a leisure garden outside of the leisure pools so that outdoor water facilities as well as other activities could actually take place and adjoin the centre. In terms of the design concept, it was based on our state's long-term needs. The leisure component, as I said, provided that financial sustainability that gave confidence in the government proceeding forward. Architecturally, a major earth mound was built to the east of the facility. It had 2 primary functions. One was to cap contaminated land, which was actually located adjacent to the building, as well as add a base for the future provision of temporary seating for the Olympic Games. This is a picture of the east wall, and you might wonder why I've got it up on the screen. I know it's a wonderful architectural element, but it actually has a very significant function. The roof is a very simple arch which spans across the 80 metres in width of the aquatic hall, landing on this side and supported by this great arch. And when you stand back, over towards the Athletic Centre, you read the Sydney Aquatic Arch in the foreground and the arch of the Sydney Harbour Bridge in the background as a family resemblance. It means that this entire wall requires no support and can easily be removed to allow for the seating extension to take place. The mound also allowed us to do some lovely architectural features, or provide some lovely architectural experiences. The main entry for the public is like a cave, and so people pass in and are compressed into this entry, and when they pass through, they come into this wondrous space where the great swimming halls are actually located. The entry also allows for an easy separation of the spectators between this competition hall and at the very end of the building, past that bridge, the central bridge off the entry, is the leisure facilities, so that the facility can actually perform two different functions at once, maintaining its competition role as well as maintaining a community use role. Of course, the major element in terms of Olympic overlay was the additional seats. The building is generally designed so that it accommodate all of the other requirements fairly easily for the Olympics in terms of segregation of different spectator movements or constituents, etc. But the seats were the major challenge. Going from 4,000 seats in the existing mode, and that was considered to be the number of seats that were generally required for both national as well as international competition, to the Olympic situation where over 10,000 seats were required to be added. And so the design allowed that to happen with very minimal impact to do with the actual facility, and then after the Games was easily removed and taken away and utilised elsewhere. A decision was made post the Olympics to actually keep some of these temporary seats as permanent, and so that the capacity of the facility is now 8,000 seats in its permanent mode. The leisure centre during the Olympics was drained of its water and a false floor put over it, and this became the press media centre, and hence we didn't have to build another temporary structure to house that activity. And as I said, in terms of the circulation worked very well in terms of our press, VIPs, etc., were located on the western side of the facility, and they had their own separate entrances and access, and they were separated vertically from the competitors and officials, which were on the lower level, and the public all came in on the east side of the facility and were seated on the east side of the facility to keep that separation. Post the Olympics, once all of the temporary facilities and that were taken away, the facility is still used for competition, but majority of its use is in terms of training and other community use. And in fact, not just elite performers are able to use the facilities, but also the community. And of course, the leisure facility by far is the major attraction to the facility. At the time of the Olympics, the centre was attracting about 1.2 million people per year to use it. Now, 15 years after the Olympics, we have now increased that by 25% to 1.5 million people per year, primarily there to enjoy not just the fact that it's an Olympic venue, but the fantastic facilities it's able to offer Sydney. The seats that were taken away from that temporary Olympic situation were actually taken to a venue about 100 kilometres away and erected as a new open grandstand at a suburb south of Sydney, or a city south of Sydney, to provide a much needed facility in that part of Sydney. So thank you for allowing me to share those issues and those opportunities and the examples that we were able to gain through the Sydney Olympic situation. And I trust that they may be of value in terms of Tokyo considering its way forward.
Lee様。
Thank you very much to Mr. Lee.